User personas. What are they? How do you make them? And why do you need them? Before I get started, I want to introduce this concept to you of design methods. So if you watched my last video, in that I talk about the steps of research, information architecture, wireframing, visual design, and then prototyping. If you go and Google it, you're going to find a lot more things than I talked about. You're going to find journey mapping, you're going to find user empathy mapping, storyboarding, user personas, synthesis, discovery. You're going to find a lot of different things. Are they not important? Why am I not covering them? Now, the steps that I talk about, the 5 steps, those are the base steps in a design process, which means every design process has these steps. What methods you choose to apply in each of these steps might vary based on the project you're working on. So think of these design methods as tools in your design toolbox. And based on the kind of problem you need to solve, based on the task at hand, you pick some of these tools that you think will help you do things better. In no case ever would you use all the tools available in this box just for the sake of it. You would use this based on the situation and based on what the problem demands. So user personas are typically fictional characters that you create based on the research that you carry out. And the reason you do this is so you can understand them better. Because when you create personas, it's a limited set. And each persona represents the different type of user. And you try to do this such that they're mutually exclusive, but overall they're exhaustive for your design task. So let me give you a few examples. So let's say I'm building a platform for people to rent bikes and go on trips, go on social trips with people. And I did research, I went, talked to users, I tried to figure out what are they looking for in such a service. I also looked at services online, I looked at reviews, and I did a lot of reading to understand what the market is. Now, based on my research, maybe I realized that the first type of persona, I create a fictional character, I take a photograph, I give him a name, and I say Amit is the type of person who's looking for people to go with, new people that he can go with and have these experiences. So renting a bike or a car is actually secondary. He cares about meeting new people, and that's what this platform needs to do for him. Second type of person, let's say I give this person the name Sheila, and what Sheila is looking for is she has a friend group already, and she is looking for a quick way to just make a booking and be able to go and pick it up. Third person that I might find is, let's say, a fleet manager, somebody who wants to book vehicles in bulk and their frequency is way higher than the other users. This is a totally separate use case. And based on your project, whether it's a project that's just getting started or a project that's established and already has users, based on whether it's for a big corporation or whether it's for a solo entrepreneur, this process can either be long and it can be detailed, or it can be short and quick. So let's say you're doing this as a freelancer for a client. The client is going to say, okay, let's get started. And then they get back to you 2 weeks later and they're like, okay, is it ready? And you're like, yeah, here's the personas, here are the user diagrams, here are the user scenarios. He's going to be like, yo, like my developers need to start building this. Can I just have screens already? Versus something like this might be normal at a big company where you have very tough decisions to make and you can't afford to do something wrong. In the last video, we designed the login and sign up screen for an app called Kryptonite. And the concept of this app was, it's a live game show. Everybody who's using this and is playing right now, cryptocurrency is mined on their phone and the winner gets the entire pool at the end of it. Let's say now Kryptonite is a freelance project that I'm doing for somebody. And I did this login and sign up screen, and now I actually want to do the inner parts of it. So I researched, I looked at some other apps that do this. So HQ Trivia, I found Yas, Trivia Mob, The Q, FN Genius, Majority Rules. I found a bunch of these, I tried them out. I read everything on the internet about it. I read what people are talking about it, what news sites are talking about it, looking online for what's happening, as well as talking to people who actually play these game shows. So the 2 types of personas that I might identify, one would be a solo player, somebody who plays by themselves every once in a while. Let's say I look at my phone and I see a notification and I'm like, okay, let's play. The other is the frequent player. They usually play in groups, and this happens because it's at lunchtime, they're playing with their colleagues or they're playing with their classmates, and these guys do it every day because it's now a ritual around it. You might develop deeper personas in the design process once a few versions are out We need to solve tougher problems. So problems like retention. How do we build features that make people stay longer? At this point, you might identify personas like one type of user who plays every day and somebody who plays just a week. What are the differences here? Why does this person do what they do? Why does this person do what they do? And this helps you build features. And that is design process again, except you're applying it at a late stage of the product development. Another example I'll talk about is, let's say you're building a dashboard application. You're building a SaaS tool that companies are going to use, and there's going to be teams of people using it. And the different types of users you have identified are regular users who use this to check their data, administrators who can edit and add new people to it, super administrators, people who can actually nuke everything and create new projects. Now, based on these three types of personas, each has different roles, each has different things that they do with the platform, and they probably have a different frequency of use as well. Here, right from the very start, personas are super important because every single feature you build, you have to sort of separate it out into who am I building this for, who is going to use this, and who is it useful for. Now, let me talk about another example. So this is something I came across on Abhishek's site. Abhishek is going to be interning with me at Unacademy this December. He also is going to be an intern next year at Facebook London. This was one of the projects in his portfolio. And these are the personas he used for one of his projects. And you can see they're well designed and they're based on frequency. So one of them was a frequent user, others a not so frequent user. Were personas needed in this case? I would say yes, because when I read this in his case study, the way he guided through his process, the research process and who he was building it for, helped me understand what the project was, and that way we could have better conversations about it. Why else was it important? Because when he was building this, it helps him really narrow down the scope. So for example, if you're thinking in very broad terms, your solution can be very generic and it might not work for everybody. Another example that I'll give you is at Unacademy. So initially our personas were just learners and educators. Learners come to watch content and study. Educators are the ones who create content. There were separate apps for each, and these were very broad personas in the beginning. But over time, as we developed more features, as we got deeper into the product cycle, we started developing more detailed personas. So for learners, we started identifying people who had written an entrance exam just once versus people who had written it multiple times. And based on this, they usually wanted different features. They were using the app in different ways. On the educator side, we might have identified personas like some of these were power users. They wanted deep control over their data. They wanted to see statistics. Others were not power users. They wanted something else out of the thing. So this way we figure out what features need to be prioritized and what we should be building. So the personas you identify will continuously change as you go deeper into your product cycle. At the beginning, you're going to have very loosely defined personas. Deeper into the product cycle, you're going to get very definitive, and each feature that you develop will be specifically for certain personas and keeping their needs in mind. So thanks a lot for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.